All right. Well, welcome everybody. And did we lose somebody already? Do we have everybody? I thought we had 7. So this is
Nancy fell off again.
Nancy. There she is. Got her. Hey, folks. Welcome to
Fell off again.
there she is. Got her. Technology. Welcome to the League of Women Voters Redistricting Town Hall, brought to you in cooperation here with Willard Library. I'm Mac McCullough, the librarian at Willard Library, as most of you probably already know if you're watching. Welcome, and welcome to my guests. I'm really excited about this. Those of you who know anything about the Redistricting Commission, this was a long-fought battle to bring this to Michigan to address what had been a perennial problem for a long time, gerrymandered districts. And we're going to teach you a little bit about that and talk a little bit about that and talk about how you can get involved over the next several months. But first, I just want to start by introducing my guests. I'll start with Sue Roscoe, who is the chair of the Calhoun County unit of the League of Women Voters. Sue is the chairperson of the newly formed Calhoun County League of Women Voters. We also have 4 Calhoun County League of Women communities of interest, which you'll learn about later, what exactly those are. We have Nancy Craycraft, who hails from Marshall, I believe. Is that right, Nancy? That's right. Also from Marshall, Lori Klein-Clausen. Also from Marshall, Sherry Reiser. And from Converse Township, which is not too far, is Linda Pell. Welcome to all of you. And finally, Edward Woods III. He's the Communications and Outreach Director for the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And you'll hear more from him in just a little bit, and Sue will reintroduce him. So welcome all of you. Really appreciate you coming in. And Sue, we're going to turn it over to you to talk about what is the League of Women Voters, because some people might not know. And what is this project?
Okay, well, thank you, Mac. The League is relatively new. We just started in February of 2020. And we first, though, would want to thank you, Mac, for all of your help with this project and Willard Library for co-sponsoring it. And also thank Edward for joining us tonight and for all of his hard work with the commission to bring legislative maps that are representative of the citizens and not politicians. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government. We're sponsored by the well-established League of Women Voters of the Kalamazoo area, which is a part of the larger Michigan and U.S. leagues, all of whom have been in existence since 1920. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose parties or candidates. We're committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, both in principle and in practice. The goal of the League is to engage all individuals, households, communities, and policymakers in creating a more perfect democracy. We educate voters through projects such as our nonpartisan Vote 411 guides, candidate forums, and presentations. The League of Women Voters does form positions on issues and advocates for them after careful study and adoption by consensus. The League works hard to increase understanding of major public policy issues. That's why we're here tonight, to share information on the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission and the League's role in this process of identifying and then assisting communities of interest. Thank you all for attending and for your interest in working toward a more equitable and perfect democracy. We're very pleased and excited to have Edward Woods III, who again is the Communications and Outreach Director for the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. We're so pleased to have him with us tonight. We welcome you, Edward, and are excited to hear more about the commission and its work. Edward?
Thank you so much, Sue. I'm just honored to be with the League of Women Voters and just appreciate the work that they have done. I've been involved with the League of Women Voters well over 20 years. We did a partnership in Northern Berrien County with regards to elections and making sure people got the right to vote and hearing both sides of the issues in terms of doing candidates for them. So really, really enjoy the work of the League of Women Voters. And I'm going to congratulate you all for getting one organized in Calhoun County and kicking the door like gangbusters to make sure everyone is aware about Michigan's redistricting process. So thank you for that. And also thank you to Mac and the Willard Library and just a partnership. I mean, this is what civics is all about. Can you imagine? We're actually doing civics in reality in an open and transparent process. And I'm indebted to each of you, Sue, Lori, Sherry, Linda, Nancy, and Mac, for this wonderful opportunity. I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about the commission and also be available to answer any questions anyone may have, because that is so important to me that we deal with any questions that people may have. I'll see if I can.
And Edward, while you're doing that, I'll just interject that the rest of us are going to move off stream a little backstage. And those of you watching on Facebook or on YouTube, you can type questions into the comments and I will be able to see them and present them to Edward at the conclusion of his presentation. So with that, let's get that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. You are welcome. And
once again, my name is Edward Woods III, and I'm just happy to be here at the League of Women Voters and just want to appreciate this opportunity again. Just to give a little background, the history of the MICRC. MICRC stands for Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. I know we got another government acronym. Can you believe it? Every time we try to get away from one, we start bringing them back again. So the MICRC, in 2018, Michigan voters passed Proposal 2 to amend the Michigan Constitution. And as a result, it created the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, MICRC. It's comprised of randomly selected Michiganders, 4 who are Democrats, 5 who are independents, and 4 who are Republicans. This was done by the Michigan Department of State in terms of randomly selecting 13 commissioners, and think of it as a lottery. Just think of it as a lottery. The MICRC is responsible for redistricting the Michigan congressional. You've heard this week that we're going from 14 congressional seats to 13 as relates to the U.S. House of Representatives, the State House, which is 110 seats, and the State Senate districts, which is 38 seats. The MICRC is responsible for that redistricting process. As our strategic plan, our mission is we want to lead Michigan's redistricting process to assure that Michigan's congressional, state Senate, and state House district lines are drawn fairly in a citizen-led, transparent process meeting constitutional mandates. Our vision: chart a positive course for elections based on fair maps for Michigan today and for the future. So when you think about the redistricting process, this is the first time in our state's history that citizens are leading the process. And so the things that we are doing are historic in nature, and we want to make sure that we hear from as many citizens as possible as we draw transparent, fair maps that meet constitutional mandates. When you think about our goals, it follows the acronym of FATE, F-A-T-E. Fairness, awareness, transparency, and engagement. Fairness means commissioners will assure that lines are drawn in a fair, independent manner in live, open meetings. None of this behind the door stuff. How can I say? Patting on the back, switching things, none of that. Everything will be done in an open and live meeting that you will be able to watch either in person or remotely if you want to hear by the phone, or watch virtually through our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel, or as a part of Zoom. You will be able to be in the meeting and see what happens. Awareness: there'll be multiple opportunities for residents of Michigan to learn about the redistricting process. I would encourage you right now, if you have not signed up to receive email alerts or text messages, to go to www.michigan www.michigan.gov/MICRC. Transparency. Meetings of the commission, including public hearings, will be open meetings. All of us are open meetings. In fact, coming up 2 weeks from today, we will be at the Wings Event Center for our public hearing in Kalamazoo. Wings Event Center for a public hearing at Kalamazoo. Our weekly meeting will start at 5:00 p.m. And then our public hearing with regards to the process will start at 6:00 p.m. at the Wings Event Center in Kalamazoo on May 13th, 2 weeks from today. Meetings agendas with supporting documents and other commissioner materials are always available on our website. Once again, www.michigan.gov/MICRC. E, for engagement. Members of the public will have multiple means and be encouraged to address the commission and provide comment. In other words, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. We want to receive public comments, suggestions for how to draw the maps, whether it's a state house or a state senate or a congressional district. We want to hear from you. Our core values focus on integrity, respect, transparency, and being purposeful. Core competencies. Our actions exemplify honesty and professionalism. Responsibilities and integrity are put above personal or political gain. Thoughtful and purposeful dialogue and collegiality are fostered. Respect, tolerance, and equality are extended toward others. These are the core competencies that you should expect to happen when you engage with the commission in this huge process of redistricting. Our critical success factors are Michigan citizens from across the state and with diverse backgrounds participate meaningfully in the redistricting process. The Constitution is upheld and always at the forefront. All actions are undertaken with a commitment to fairness. The Code of Conduct, policy, and procedures are followed. Discussion and deliberations occur in open meetings with the utmost transparency. Commissioners, consultants, and staff members work in an impartial manner to instill public confidence in the integrity of the redistricting process. Last but not least, and in conclusion, we welcome your ideas as well as the ideas of your neighbors, your church members, your social clubs, anyone and everyone within your sphere of influence. We want you to feel free to get engaged and to provide public comments about Michigan's redistricting process. You can send it to redistricting@michigan.gov or mail them to MICRC, P.O. Box 30318, Lansing, Michigan 48909. To learn more about the process or obtain more information about the upcoming public hearings, please visit www.michigan.gov/MICRC. Once again, I would love to thank the League of Women Voters for this great opportunity to present to you at this time. And if there are any questions, I welcome them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edward. We don't have any questions coming in right now. We'll give people a couple of minutes. And so just on the fly, and I'm bringing in Linda and Sherry, who are on the next on the agenda, but just on the fly, I mean, it sounds, on one hand, it sounds like communities of interest would be relatively easy, but when you really, look under the hood, it's a really complicated process. How is that going to work? I mean, how do you identify what those are?
Well, communities of interest is a very broad category. It's the third category as it relates to the redistricting criteria that we have to use in ranked order. The first one is equal population and adherence to all federal laws, including the Voting Rights Act. The second one is being geographically contiguous. And the third is communities of interest, which focuses on historical and cultural characteristics as well as economic interests. So when you think of communities of interest, you can think of downtown business development, waterfront communities, university hubs. There's more to communities of interest than just race. So it's a huge category for consideration as relates to the commission. And we're interested in knowing, you can't expect the commission, the commission to know every community of interest in Calhoun County. We need citizens to help us to speak up and identify so that we can ensure that they have proper representation. Well, I shouldn't say ensure, but consider when it comes to drawing the maps. And that's whether it's a state house, whether it's a state senate, or whether it's a U.S. congressional. Obviously, the smaller the district, the more the impact. So we really want to hear from citizens and really want to invite people to come out to our public hearings. May 11th is Jackson's a little bit closer, or Thursday doesn't work. We'll be in Jackson, and that will start at 6 o'clock p.m. at the American One Event Center. And then May 13th, once again, we'll be in Kalamazoo. 5 o'clock is the meeting. 6 o'clock we'll be at the Wings Event Center. So definitely want to talk more about communities of interest, and that will be shared at the public hearing as well.
Thank you. We did have one question come in. You can probably see it on the screen. What is the expected timeline for completion?
Well, as you know, we were delayed with regards to the census data. And as a result of the census data, we petitioned the Michigan Supreme Court to ask for an extension as it relates to the deadlines. And so we're waiting to hear back from the Michigan Supreme Court. But the timeline, according to the Constitution, to approve maps would be November 1. We're seeking an extension to get to let that go out till January.
All right. Well, again, thank you.
January 22nd, I believe is the correct date, just so people have context. But before we adopt the maps, we'll have a second round of public hearings, just so everyone is aware of that. And you can also provide public comment and feedback on the maps that the commission are considering in terms of voting into law. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for that. And just so folks are not hurriedly writing things down, there will be a slide toward the end of the show, a program that gives a lot of these dates and some contact information as well. Edward, I know you've been running all over the place and you have another meeting to get to, but we really appreciate you taking time to join us today.
I'm honored to be here. And if you need me back, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And, and just as soon as we're ready to bring you off, Edward, and bring on Linda, actually, there is one more question. Let's put that up while I look for what happened to Linda. Does geographically contiguous have a higher priority than communities of interest? I am in a school district of 171 perimeter miles across 13 townships and 2 municipalities located in 2 counties. Good question.
It's a very good question. Geographic contiguous is a higher priority. It's the number 2 in terms of ranked priorities. 1 would be equal population. 2 is geographically contiguous. And then 3 is community of interest.
Okay. Do you have time for one or two more if they come in?
I am here for the next 10 to 12 minutes. Or unless you and Sherry kick me off, then I'm gone. But I'm here.
All right. So we have another one that just came in. Will the MICRC, there's an acronym for you, start with county borders and then combine or split them based on population?
They're actually going to start with, before we can draw any maps, we have to hear from the public. And so they're going to start with a clean slate. There's no preconceived notions. They want to hear from the public and get ideas. But having said that, counties is a part of the redistricting criteria. And I know that's in the presentation. So I don't want to, get all the way into somebody else's presentation, but they will share the 7 ranked priorities, and county borders are one of them. So they'll be able to see that when that presentation takes place.
All right. Well, we have no other questions at this time. Oh, here, no, we don't. So thanks again, Edward. Really appreciate you coming on. And I'm not sure what happened to Linda, but we'll wing it. That's what we do in this technology, in these virtual programs. We figure it out as we go sometimes. But thanks a lot, Edward, and safe travels, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
So Sherry, you were up to queue up the video.
Okay.
But I'm looking around for Linda. I'm going to bring Sue back in real quick, because she's been my point person on this. Hey, Sue. So And you're muted, so I'm unmuting you, or I'm trying to.
Sorry
Oh,
about
you,
that.
okay, you're muted.
All these Zoom thing. Yeah. No, we can go ahead with Sherry and then Linda pop in later. We all know how the internet works, and she's in an area where the internet's iffy.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share the video file. First, I got to get rid of this. Sorry. There's
Sherry?
There's a lot of moving parts. Anything you want to add, Sue, while I'm taking care of technology here?
Yeah, Sherry can introduce what the video is. We kind of borrowed it. So.
Yeah, go ahead, Sherry.
Well, we'd like to thank the League of Women Voters of Leelanau County for sharing their presentation of the League of Women Voters of Michigan PowerPoint. The presenters are Trisha Denton, who's the president of the League of Women Voters Leelanau County and a member of the League of Women Voters Michigan Advocacy Committee, and Marion I have a terrible time with her last name, Kumkowski, probate court judge, past president of her local league, former member of the League of Women Voters Michigan Board, and member of the League of Women Voters Michigan State Committee on Redistricting. A few times they refer to Steve in the presentation, and they are referring to Steve Lutz, who's one of the commissioners. Also, we'd like to let you know there will be time for questions at the end of the presentations, as well as ways to later reach our committee for questions or requests.
All right, thank you. And actually,
Sure.
Sue did come on, so let's go ahead and bring Sue back in.
Linda.
I'm sorry, Linda. I apologize. Hi, Linda. Glad to have you back.
Sorry, I disappeared in cyberspace. I just wanted to make a few comments about why redistricting is so important for the voters in Michigan, and especially in Calhoun County. So in 2018, when we passed Proposal 2, 61% of Michigan voters and 59% of Calhoun County voters voted to change the Constitution. This put the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission in charge of drawing our congressional, state, and House voting districts. This is a big change from what we've done in the past, where traditionally the legislature drew the lines, and depending on what party was in charge, the parties often drew the lines to their advantage. Republicans did it and Democrats did it. So having an independent body who draws those lines for us gives us an opportunity as voters to have a say in what our congressional districts are. So I think this year it's particularly important for us. We need to speak up as communities of interest because we want to be represented. If we have somebody who knows our district and knows our area, they're more likely to represent us and understand what we need and what we want. Secondly, voting districts are only redrawn every 10 years after the census. So whatever decisions are made this year are going to impact us for the next 10 years. We have a lot of issues facing us right now. And if you want a voice in how the outcome of our policies and our programs for the next 10 years, it's important that we have representation that understands us. So Ed already mentioned the meeting May 11th in Jackson and May 13th in Kalamazoo. Those are windows of opportunity for us to be heard, and we don't want to miss those. And third, but not last, you may have heard that we lost a congressional seat in Michigan. Our population didn't really go down in the census, but other states went up. So when they took the total population and the 435 congressmen in the US and divided them by population, Michigan went from 14 congressional seats to 13 congressional seats. So every congressional seat will be redrawn in Michigan. We're in the center of the state. We could be drawn north, south, east, or west. There's a lot of opportunity there, and we should want to have our voices heard on how that happens. So if your group, or if you are as an individual feel strongly about our affinity to different neighbors or communities that we work with, this is your opportunity to say that. Without our voices, the MICRC does not know what we want, and we can't expect them to know what we want. So let's get involved and speak up and make sure that they have our point of view, because after the lines are drawn, it's too late to express our opinion. So you're going to hear a lot more about the process in the upcoming video, and then we'll have time for Q&A. But we are hoping that you will get engaged in this process. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda. We did have a couple of questions. I'm going to go ahead and ask them now rather than make them wait to the end. And it's two people asked the same question. Is there a minimum population that define a district, or how is that defined? Do we know that?
There are. A congressional district, when we had 14 congressional seats, it was 777,000 in a congressional district. That changes now that we have to divide by 13. There's 200 and some thousand in a state Senate district, and 60 to 70,000 in a congressional house or in a state house district.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and put the video up, and I think it starts pretty much automatically when I do that. So just bear with me. And then I'll mute my mic so you don't hear the dogs
So
barking.
Marianne, what can you tell us about redistricting?
Well, thank you, Trisha. I'm very happy to be able to be on this call today on this very, very important topic. So the lines for Michigan's U.S. congressional, state Senate, and state House districts are reviewed.
I apologize for that. We had two things up all at the same time.
So Marianne, what can you tell us about redistricting?
Well, thank you, Trisha. I'm very happy to be able to be on this call today on this very, very important topic. So the lines for Michigan's U.S. congressional, state Senate, and state House districts are reviewed and redrawn every 10 years based on the national census. So that's why it's very important that every 10 years that you participate in the census. So after the population is identified and published, we go forward with redistricting. And redistricting is the process of drawing lines for the congressional and legislative districts. How these district lines are drawn determines which voters reside in each congressional and legislative district. In Michigan, we currently have 14 U.S. congressional districts. Having lost one in the last sentence, we have 38 Michigan Senate districts and 110 Michigan House districts. So let's talk a little bit about how the map lines are drawn. The U.S. Constitution requires that the seats for the U.S. House of Representatives be apportioned to states according to the population count in the federal census, once again, conducted every 10 years. In the 1964 case of Reynolds versus Sims, the United States Supreme Court determined that the general basis of apportionment should be one person, one vote. Generally, electoral districts must be equal in population according to the most recent census data so that each person's vote is equally weighted. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act blocks district lines that deny minority voters an equal opportunity to participate in the political process and to elect representatives of their choice. Federal law requires redistricting, as I've said earlier, every 10 years, and that an equal number of persons, or more approximately equal number of persons, live in each district. You probably remember that the one person, one vote requirement was established in the Supreme Court case that I talked about. While state law, while the law states how many people must live in each district, it doesn't necessarily specify how the lines must be drawn or where, except that minority rights must be protected. So, and the 14th Amendment also has some provisions with regard to voting rights. So let's go on to the next slide and open it up for, so Trisha, what's the problem here? What's the problem with redistricting in Michigan, or past problem?
So this slide pretty much says it all. Politicians manipulate elections to keep themselves and their party in power. And Steve alluded to that as well. He said, you know, if we go back over Michigan's history, it doesn't matter which party's in power, they have taken advantage of their position of power to draw lines that have benefited them to stay in power. So here's an election district. First without district lines, and then shown with 3 different possible ways to draw the lines. The districts are 40% purple voters, 60% green voters. The map on the left has no lines. The second from the left shows districts that are compact with lines drawn vertically, and the outcome matches party distribution. The next one over has districts that are compact but unfair because the outcome is that green always wins every district, just because the lines are horizontal rather than vertical. And then the last example on the right shows that districts that are neither compact nor fair. So, you know, you can note the hard turns in the lines that are drawn, which is what we would associate with the classic gerrymandering. So this next slide is an explanation of gerrymandering from the Washington Post. And it does not represent any particular political party. You can see how the way that the lines are drawn determines the outcome. In the first example, green wins all 4. In the second example, purple wins 1 and green the other 3.
So for those of us that were involved in working to pass Proposition 2, we had a lot of explanations about packing and cracking. And just as a little refresher, packing, for example, I should use the African-American population. Packing would be in congregating African-Americans all into one district. So potentially they would win that district, or they could elect someone that they were choosing, but they wouldn't really have any impact on the districts around them. Cracking, as I understand it, is kind of the opposite of that. And once again, using the African-American scenario, that the African-American community would be divided in such a way that they would be not have much of an impact in any of the districts that they were in. So packing and cracking, hopefully this is the end that we've ever heard those terms, but that's my understanding of packing and cracking, the way I think about it.
So thank you, Mary. The next couple of slides that I'm going to take you all through are maps of Michigan. There are 435 members of Congress. The number of are reallocated among all the states every decennial census. Because of the quickly growing population in Michigan after the 1920s, the number of those representatives jumped from 12 in 1900 to 19 in 1960 and 1970. Since then, however, Michigan has lost congressional districts after each decennial census and as a result of a lag in population growth compared to other states. But Michigan is still ranks 8th in the number of seats in the US House. Each congressional district has about 710,000 people. Each district elects a representative to the House for a 2-year term, and there are no term limits for these federal races. This next slide is a good example of what Steve referred to as snakes. This is a good example of gerrymandering in Michigan, and it's also one of the worst examples in the country. This congressional district has a 79% Democratic base, and over 80% of the population is African American. So next, we are going to take a look at the current maps for Michigan Senate and State House districts. This map highlights the 2012 Michigan Senate districts based on the 2010 census. The Senate has 38 members in districts that have between 212,400 to 263,500 residents. Senators are elected at the same time as the governor and serve 4-year terms concurrent with the governor's term of office. Terms are limited to 2 4-year terms for a maximum of 8 years total in service. This next slide highlights where the districts are in Michigan for the Michigan House from the 2012 redistricting process, which will still be in effect until 2022. There are 110 Michigan members who represent about 77,000 to 91,000 residents. Representatives are elected in even-numbered years to 2-year terms, with the current term expiring on December 31st, 2022. Each representative is limited to serving 3 terms or 6 years total. Now, Marion, can you tell us a little bit more about the specific role and process the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission will play in the process of redrawing the maps?
I'll do my best. So commissioners will spend a lot of time holding hearings and consulting with experts who will also offer them specialized software and data from many, many sources, including that important census data, to draw election district maps. The general idea is to come up with election district maps that A, meet the criteria in the constitutional amendment, and B, are approved by a strictly prescribed vote of the commission. So let's talk a little bit about how they will vote. All right, so Steve, Commissioner Lett has talked about this, but let's just go over this again. So if someone asks you, you'll be able to explain it. So before a vote by the ICRC, the map must have been tested using appropriate technology to meet the criteria in the Constitution, which we'll cover in a minute. Approval requires a majority vote. That is 7 of the 13. Now, Steve thought it might be 9 of the 13, but either it's 7 or 9. But in that number, there must be at least 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 2 independents voting yes for a particular map. If these voting requirements cannot be met, so if they can't reach an agreement, each of the 13 commissioners could submit one final map for each state house, state senate, or US congressional district. And the commission again could maybe toss those around and see if they reach that requisite majority. But if they don't, then all the maps are sent to the Secretary of State and will be chosen in that office, or from that office.
So Steve talked a little about what some of those criteria and rules were from the Constitution that the commission must use to create the election district maps, with the point being to ensure no more gerrymandering. So these are the 7 criteria in order of priority. First, they must be of equal population and comply with the U.S. Constitution, the Voting Rights Act, and other federal requirements. These must be applied before any other criteria. Second, they must be geographically contiguous. Islands are considered to be contiguous by the land to the county of which they are part. Third, the districts shall reflect the state's diverse population and communities of interest. Communities of interest may include, but shall not be limited to, populations that share cultural or historical characteristics or economic interests. Communities of interest do not include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. We're going to talk a little bit, we've already talked a little bit about that. We're going to talk more about that. Fourth, districts may not give a disproportionate advantage to any political party. So no packing, no cracking. This shall be determined using accepted measures of partisan fairness. Fifth, districts shall not favor or disfavor an incumbent or candidate. Sixth, districts shall reflect consideration of county, city, township boundaries. And last, the districts must be reasonably compact. Marian, what's the women voters doing about all this?
So the League of Women Voters of Michigan, we have a statewide committee. There's 10 to 15 of us, but we have been monitoring the MICRC meetings to ensure that the law is followed. And anyone in the public can watch the meetings. You can go to Google in Secretary of State redistricting, and it'll take you to the page. It'll take you to the point where the meeting schedule, what is on the agenda. You can review the prior meetings, prior recordings, and get up to speed and choose what meeting you wish to watch, or all the meetings. They are very interesting. So the league is also coordinating with some staff in the commission to help spread the word about the redistricting process. The league has chosen, though, to focus primarily on explaining communities of interest. This is a new concept in a new process. Our goal is to identify or help identify communities of interest, contact them, and support their participation in the public hearings. So we're going to dig now a little deeper into this crucial topic of just what are communities of interest and why they are important. So what are they? In the Constitution, Section 13 of the Constitution, it's defined as communities of interest may include, but shall not be limited to, populations that share cultural or historical characteristics or economic interests. Communities of interest do not include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. So why do communities of interest matter? Well, populations that share cultural characteristics, historical characteristics, or economic characteristics, and any other type of issue that you feel helps you find a bond with others in your community, that is what the commissioners are looking to help be defined for them. So let's ask ourselves, these questions. What fosters a sense of connection in your community? Where do you and your neighbors shop or work? What transportation do you use? Or what are your ecological concerns? So some examples of communities of interest, and this is not an exhaustive list, but could be Hispanic or Latino populations, or the Sikh population that Commissioner Lepp described, adjacent school districts with similar issues, agricultural groups such as dairy farmers, orchard growers, cherry growers, groups sharing watershed or lakeshore. We all, at least in our area here, all live along the Grand Traverse Bay. Native American tribes, neighborhood associations.
So this puts Michigan in an enviable position. Having moved the job of creating election district lines from gerrymandered legislature to an independent commission of voters. But that whole process is brand new and largely not known to or understood by people. The questions that we've gotten already today bear that out. And on top of that, the crucial 2020 census was delayed by politics and the pandemic, and public processes are happening virtually rather than in person. So Michigan can't look to other states because each state has their own definition and priority for communities of interest. This brand new concept is a brand new process, is the third highest priority for the commission to use after following the federal law and to be geographically contiguous. They are a higher priority than considerations of county, city, and township boundaries and being reasonably compact. So we already had a question about why communities of interest matter. Under Michigan's Constitution, they're meant to be the building blocks for legislative districts. And why is that? Finally, we get to some political theory. The fundamental purpose is to group of a community of interest in a single district rather than scattering them among two or more. Remember the concept in gerrymandering of cracking. So particular voters among several election districts to weaken their ability to elect one of them. The same principle applies to grouping members of a community of interest together in a different context, the context of electing and then influencing a lawmaker. So, Marion, can you tell us a little bit more about what's required before the new lines can be drawn in order to be considered, to consider all the criteria that are included?
I can do that, but I want to say one more thing about communities of interest. And the way I think about it is when voters who share a common bond and legislative issues are in one district, they can more effectively speak with one voice and attain greater priority in the eyes of your legislator. The Constitution now requires that districts should reflect the local community and be made to follow logical boundaries, not boundaries drawn to minimize or pronounce the voting power of one political power over another. And one thing that the Leelanau League and the Grand Traverse Area League and other leagues that are participating throughout the state are talking about is, kind of brainstorming and trying to identify, what we think may be local communities of interest. It's not up to the league, though, to define what would be a community of interest. But some of the groups that we have reached out to by way of letters, emails, and inviting them to these webinars are, as we talked about earlier, fruit farmers, the vintners, Grand Traverse Band, the retiree community, all the schools that are in the TBA ISD district, or affordable housing entities, people who are involved in water protection or groups involved in water protection, the Bay Area Transit Association, folks who work with migrant agricultural community, individuals in the tourist community that have seasonal workers. We have a number of entities, groups in our community that are working on early childhood issues. So we posed the question to them, do you consider yourself a community of interest? And if you do, be encouraged to participate and make your case to the commission at the public hearings. So going to the aspect of public participation, there will be at least 10 hearings before the maps are drawn. And the commission has expanded that actually to 16 in total. So 10 before and 5 after. And the public may also submit plans and underlying data. The commission must publish its plans. The commission, its staff, attorneys, and consultants may not discuss redistricting matters with the public except at public hearings. And after a plan is adopted, the commission must publicize the plan and a report explaining its decisions and materials used. And it'll be at that point, once there's a proposed plan, that the second round of public hearings will be held to comment on the proposed plan. All right, so Commissioner Lett has already walked through the locations for the public hearings. Once again, sounds like if you're on this call from Leland or Grand Traverse or this part of the state, our closest public hearing will be on May 20th in Gaylord. And we will also have a public hearing at the back end in Gaylord after the second round of public hearings. But you can go to any of these locations, I believe, but it's a work in progress. I think the commissioners have thought that the meetings would be in the evening, 2 minutes to speak, and you can participate in a variety of ways at any of these public hearings. And this still is a work in progress, but when the final list and the final protocols are published, it'll be made known to everyone. So if you are inclined to go to a public hearing, both I and Trisha, we do quite a bit of public speaking. Not that we're the best public speakers out there, but there are people who are very nervous about doing public speaking, or can talk on and on and on, which sometimes I do. But we put together what we call a handy guide. So to help you figure out how you're going to get your message across, potentially in 2 minutes, if you're going to publicly speak. So it's suggested that first you introduce yourself, tell the commissioners your name, where you're from. If you are advocating on behalf of an organization, state its name and briefly its purpose. Second, go to the point of, what is my issue? Such as, I'm here to talk about redistricting. For example, redistricting in the 101st State House District. So what are you there to talk about? And then what is your community of interest? State what common interests bind you and others together in your community. For example, we are cherry farmers or vintners. We are the parents of students in X, Y, and Z school districts. We are users of public transportation in this area. Second, in addition to saying who you are and what you think your community of interest is, round out why you think this is a community of interest. Give some evidence, some facts, some supporting argument. So describe the geographic area, your particular interests or interest impact. What do you want the MICRC to know about your area? Make it personal. For example, I'm a cherry grower and there's a high concentration of cherry orchard, grape orchards in X, Y, and Z counties. Or I use regional public transportation in our area, and it is greatly needed to travel, in and between X number of counties. We have a high number of retirees in the community, and we're a rural community, so public transportation is essential. So make it personal, tell your own little personal story, and then make the ask. What are you asking the commission to consider in drawing the maps? What are these geographic boundaries that you want to suggest for your House, Senate, and/or federal district? You can go in with your hand-drawn map and submit it. There are also two software options. One is districtr.org, and the other is representable.org. And both of those, they have tutorials, and it takes a little while to get the hang of it, but you can go in and plug in information you think defines your area, and it'll draw a map for you that you can then print off or send directly to the commission. And obviously, as anytime you're asking for something, thank the commissioners for their time and for listening for your remarks. Keep in mind, if you're going to speak in public, that for 2 minutes, if you have normal cadence, about 150 words per minute. So keep that in mind. Write out your comments. It is nothing to be ashamed of if you need to read it. However, if you are going to read it, from experience, put it in large print so you don't have to, you can go up and down and so you can see it without, going like that. Bring extra copies of your printed comments to give to the MICRC or even to the press if they're there. Practice your comments at home or run it by someone else. Obviously, be polite. And then finally, send a written version of your remarks to the commission. And for those individuals on the call or others in the community, if you believe you're a community of interest and you would like our local league team to help you kind of troubleshoot, is what you believe your community of interest is and how to best present that to the commission, we are willing to do that and to not to write your comments for you, but to help you best prepare for that public hearing. So other ways you can get involved is attend the public hearings in your area, either as an individual or a member of a group. And once again, now we're learning that you'll be able to watch the hearings via live screen or Zoom, call in, give your comments by way of Zoom. The public hearing schedule can always be found or will be found at the redistrictingmichigan.org site. And you're encouraged to contact your local league for more information about communities of interest, the redistricting process, and how we can best help you prepare if you wish to present your thoughts to the commission.
All right. Well, we had some technical difficulties, and I'm bringing our guests back in here. We'll start with Sue. Sue, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Okay. All right. Not sure
So
what happened.
good. A lot of good information. For some reason it was just out of sight, out of sync, and I'm not really sure why. But what did we miss anything from the video, Sue?
Well, I think we can get into it with Linda when she comes in with questions and answers. But we had there was a good handprint that kind of showed visually how to do that testifying, and I think that's really important for people. So what we'll do is, if you're interested in receiving that video to watch yourself, you can maybe in the comments put your email address, or actually we'll have a slide up with our email address in a way that you can phone or text us. That's probably the best way. If you in there would just send us a note and we will send that video to you. It had a lot of good information if you're interested in doing the communities of interest or testifying. Okay.
Yeah, we can provide that link as well. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go back to your PowerPoint, I should say. Mm-hmm. And this actually will give our viewers an opportunity to see the meeting dates, location of public hearings.
Yeah, so you have heard from multiple speakers so far of the public hearings and the commission, their desire and need to hear from the public. So don't be alarmed by the word testify. There are multiple ways for you to interact with the commission, including presenting at these public hearings. And you'll note for those of us in Calhoun County, May 11th and May 13th are the hearings that are closest in proximity, but you can interact and present at any hearing in Michigan, any of these dates. So the hearings will allow for both in-person and virtual presentations. So you've also heard that there's a website on michigan.gov/MICRC that lists all of these meetings under the meetings and notices. And for each of these meetings, there will be an agenda and a notice posted at least 18 hours prior to the public hearing. So we have a one-page, fairly detailed document created to help you if you are interested in presenting at those hearings, that will guide you through that process. And the slide that's up currently shows our local Calhoun County League of Women Voters email address, as well as a phone number that you can call or text if you want to receive more information from us. And as you also heard in the presentation, the video that was presented, we will be glad to either help you with your testimony with certain documents that may help guide you through preparing input for the commission. And if we cannot answer a question, we will certainly find somebody that can help you. But again, don't be alarmed or scared with the prospect of testifying, because again, you can present at a hearing in person. There's a way to also join one of those hearings virtually and present. You can even do it over the phone if you would like. There's also an email address that Edward shared, which we also have in our one-page guide with how to communicate with the commission. And in the month of May, we have heard that the commission is going to launch a portal that people can upload their input, their testimony, and if they have maps that they have either hand-drawn or they have used some software to assist with drawing, those maps can be uploaded as part of their input to the commission. If you, on the call today, if you have been working with an individual from our unit of the League of Women Voters, you can continue to communicate directly with them. Again, or please jot down this email and phone number if you would like to receive more information, detailed information about how to interact with the commission and prepare your input.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you, everybody. And I wanted to ask that one sheet. I don't know if I have it in my possession yet, but if I do, we will make that available at the library if somebody wants to just stop in and pick one up. That sound good? And so right now we don't have any questions coming in, folks. If you have any questions, now would be a good time to put them in the chat of either your Facebook or your YouTube interface. Sue or Nancy, any closing remarks you'd like to add? Well, bandwidth, we take for granted the internet until the bandwidth issues make us look like we're robots or the videos get out of sync.
Yeah. I'm not sure if Nancy, are you there? Oh, I think she's out of sync, so I'll go ahead. But
okay.
We do really encourage any of you that if you have questions or want more information or want some assistance in doing, testifying or forming a community of interest or seeing if you are one, please email us or text us or call, as Lori mentioned. And if you'd leave your name and contact information in that communication, that would be helpful. And if you're affiliated with any other organization, that would also be good. And just watch the newspapers, go on to the website for the MICRC they'll share any updates. It keeps changing. It's like a moving target with everything going on. And I do see that they now have a place where you can email them directly. That's right on that web page. So we'll keep information out in front of you with the newspapers and our Facebook page, and just looking forward to helping in any way we can. And thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for coming. I put that contact info one more time up there. And I just wanted to thank you for reaching out to us, Sue, and the rest of the committee members. We really hurriedly put this together very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think we did a great job. The video non-syncing this issue, I couldn't have anticipated. So,
No.
but thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for mobilizing people to take an interest in their political future, their community's future, and to work together to be active in the legislature. So please stay on the stream while we close. But with that, folks, thank you for attending, and we will see you soon at Willard Library. Take care.
Thank you, Michael. This is a great opportunity.
Thank you.
For the community.